The metal latch burned my palm, but I couldn't let go, couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The May sun pressed down on my shoulders like a hot iron, and the canvas tote bag bumped against my hip. Cinnamon rolls still warm inside, wrapped in clean dish towels the way I'd done for 40 years. The hydrangeas along the fence drooped, their blue petals curling brown at the edges. They needed water. That's what I noticed first, standing there at the side gate of my son's house on Mother's Day morning. Then I heard her voice. Why is she even still alive? Sloane, my daughter-in-law, sharp as shattered glass, cutting through the morning air from somewhere in the backyard where I couldn't see her, where she couldn't see me. My fingers tightened on the latch, the sun-heated metal seared my skin, but the pain felt distant, unimportant, like it was happening to someone else's hand. Hi, viewers, kindly tell us where you're watching from and what time it is. I mean, she's what, 71? Sloane continued. Her voice carried that smooth, practiced tone she used at her marketing job. Professional, efficient, like she was discussing quarterly earnings instead of my death. My grandmother died at 68. It's not like Elowen has anything left to contribute. Elowen, that's me. 71 years old as of March. Still strong enough to garden, to bake, to drive myself anywhere I needed to go. Still sharp enough to balance my checkbook, manage my investments, remember every birthday and anniversary without writing them down. Still alive enough to hear my son's wife wish I wasn't. The tote bag slipped down my arm. I caught it before it hit the ground. The motion automatic, my body moving while my mind stayed frozen on those words. Why is she even still alive? Like I was a burden, a problem, an inconvenience waiting to be solved. This wasn't the first time I'd heard Sloane talk about me. 3 years of marriage to my youngest son had given me plenty of opportunities to overhear comments I wasn't meant to hear. But this was the first time I'd heard her wish me dead. I should have walked away. Should have climbed back into my 12-year-old Honda, driven home to my empty house where the silence didn't cut quite so deep. Should have pretended I'd never come, never heard, never knew. But my feet stayed planted in the grass. My hand stayed wrapped around that burning latch. And something inside me, something that had been bending for 3 years, folding itself smaller and smaller to fit into the spaces Sloane allowed, finally snapped. I pushed open the gate. The backyard spread out before me like a magazine photo. Perfect green lawn, trimmed hedges, white patio furniture arranged just so around a glass-topped table. Sloane stood near the grill, her blonde hair pulled back in a sleek ponytail, wearing white linen pants that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. Her mother, Darlene, sat in one of the patio chairs scrolling through her phone. A few of Sloane's friends, women I'd met once, maybe twice, clustered near the outdoor kitchen, champagne glasses already in hand though it wasn't even 10 in the morning. No family, no Holden, no Mother's Day brunch setup, just Sloane and her people talking about when I'd have the decency to die, my son Holden. The baby I'd had at 42 when I thought I was done with diapers and midnight feedings, the boy who used to bring me dandelions from the yard, present them like roses, his gap-toothed smile bright as summer sunshine. For you, Mama, he'd say, his small hands sticky with dirt and joy, because you're the best mama in the whole world. I'd kept every single one in a vase on the kitchen windowsill until they turned to white puffballs. Vernon used to tease me about it, said our kitchen looked like a weed garden, but he'd smile when he said it, understanding that those dandelions meant more than roses ever could. Vernon, my husband. Gone 6 years now, though some mornings I still reached for him in bed, my hand finding only cool sheets where his warmth should have been. We'd had 43 years together. Built a life from nothing, 2 kids from nowhere, Tennessee, with more dreams than dollars, working our way up from a one-room apartment to a modest house with a yard big enough for the 3 children we'd raised there. Marceline came first, then Quincy, then Holden 12 years later when we'd stopped trying, stopped hoping, accepted that 2 was enough. But Holden came anyway. Our surprise, our bonus, our dandelion boy. Vernon used to joke that Holden came into the world apologizing. Even as a baby, he'd been so eager to please, so desperate to make everyone around him happy. He'd cry when other kids cried, share his toys before anyone asked, always the first to say sorry even when he'd done nothing wrong. That boy's got the softest heart I've ever seen, Vernon would say, watching 6-year-old Holden give away his Halloween candy to kids whose bags looked emptier than his. Hope the world doesn't crush it. The world didn't, Sloane did. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up. Let me tell you how a woman who raised 3 children, buried a husband, and built a life from nothing ended up standing in her own son's yard, listening to strangers toast to her death. We thought we'd have 20 more years, Vernon and I. We'd just started planning our retirement, looking at RVs, talking about seeing the Grand Canyon, making lists of all the national parks we'd visit: Yellowstone, Yosemite, the Redwoods. We'd bought a road atlas, the old-fashioned kind with the spiral binding, and Vernon had marked routes in red pen while I made notes about campgrounds and restaurants people recommended. We got 4 months, pancreatic cancer. The doctor said the words like he was ordering coffee. Calm, matter of fact. Stage 4, inoperable. We can make you comfortable. Comfortable? What a word to use for dying. Vernon went from healthy to gone so fast I barely had time to understand what was happening. One day we were circling Crater Lake on the Atlas. The next day I was choosing between oak and cherry for his casket. Like it mattered, like any of it mattered when the man I'd spent 4 decades loving was about to be buried in the ground. The funeral was on a Tuesday. Cold rain, gray sky, mud that sucked at my heels as I stood at the graveside trying to remember how to breathe. Marceline held one arm, Quincy held the other, and Holden, 33 years old but looking about 12, stood pressed against my back. His tall frame bent over mine like he could shield me from the rain, from the grief, from the terrible reality that his father was in that box being lowered into that hole. "I've got you, Mama," he whispered into my hair. "Always, I promise. I've got you." I believed him. For 2 years after Vernon died, Holden kept that promise. He called every single day, sometimes just for 5 minutes, just to hear my voice, to make sure I'd eaten, to remind me to take my blood pressure medication. Sometimes for an hour, letting me talk about Vernon, letting me cry, letting me be broken without trying to fix me. He stopped by twice a week, fixed the leaky faucet in my kitchen, replaced the loose board on the porch steps, cleaned the gutters, changed the air filters. Did all the things Vernon used to do, stepping into his father's shoes without me ever asking him to. We'd have dinner together, usually something I'd cooked because cooking gave me something to do with my hands, something to focus on besides the empty chair at the table. Holden would eat seconds, then thirds, praising every dish like I was a 5-star chef instead of a widow reheating leftovers. "Nobody makes pot roast like you, Mama," he'd say, sopping up gravy with a biscuit. Dad was the luckiest man alive. Was. Past tense. Because Vernon was gone and I was still here, and some days that felt like the cruelest joke God ever played. But I had Holden, and Holden had me, and we were getting through it together, one day at a time, one dinner at a time, one phone call at a time. Then he met Sloane. 2 years after I buried Vernon, Holden called me on a Tuesday night, his voice different, higher, faster, vibrating with an energy I hadn't heard since before his father died. "Mama, I met someone." My heart did something complicated in my chest. Joy and fear twisted together, inseparable. I wanted my son to be happy, to find love, to build a life with someone who'd cherish him the way Vernon had cherished me. But I also wanted him to stay mine, just a little longer, just until I figured out how to be alone. Selfish. I know, but grief makes you selfish sometimes. "Tell me about her," I said, pushing down the fear, reaching for the joy. "Her name's Sloane. She works in marketing, some big firm in Nashville. Mama, she's amazing. Smart and beautiful and funny and successful, and she laughs at my jokes. Even the bad ones." He brought her to Sunday dinner 3 weeks later. I'd spent all Saturday cleaning the house, changing the sheets in the guest room just in case, baking a peach cobbler from scratch. Sunday morning, I put on my good dress, the navy blue one with the white collar that Vernon had always liked, and set the table with the china we'd gotten for our wedding. The plates with the little gold rim that I only used for special occasions. This felt special. This felt important. This was my son bringing home the woman who might become his wife. Sloane arrived in a white BMW that looked like it had never seen dirt. She stepped out in heels so high and thin, I wondered how she walked, let alone drove. Her outfit probably cost more than my monthly grocery budget. all white linen and gold jewelry that caught the afternoon sun. "Mrs. Ashford," she said, extending a hand with nails painted the color of fresh blood. "It's so wonderful to finally meet you. Holden talks about you constantly." Her hand was cold, smooth, not a callus or rough spot anywhere, like she'd never washed a dish or pulled a weed or done a single day's hard work in her life. "Call me Elowen," I said, shaking her hand, trying to ignore the warning bell that started ringing somewhere in my gut. Come in, dinner's almost ready." Holden trailed behind her like a puppy, carrying her purse, an enormous leather thing with gold hardware and a designer logo I recognized from department store windows. His eyes never left her. When she sat, he sat. When she stood, he stood. When she spoke, he leaned forward like her words were the only thing worth hearing in the entire world. Love makes people stupid. I knew that. I'd been stupid for Vernon once too, back when we were young and everything felt urgent and important and world-changing. But something about the way Sloane looked at my son didn't feel like love. It felt like calculation. Dinner was awkward. I'd made pot roast, Holden's favorite, with roasted carrots and mashed potatoes and fresh-baked rolls. Comfort food. The kind of meal that fills your belly and your soul. Sloane picked at her plate like the food might poison her. Cut her meat into tiny pieces. Moved the potatoes around without eating them. Took 3 bites total in the hour we sat there. "This is delicious," she said, her fork hovering over her plate. "I'm just not very hungry. Late lunch." But I'd seen her Instagram. Holden had shown me scrolling through photos of Sloane at fancy restaurants, champagne brunches, rooftop bars. She ate. Just not my cooking. She checked her phone 6 times during dinner, kept it in her lap, thumbs flying across the screen while Holden talked about his job at the engineering firm, about the project he was leading, about the promotion he was hoping for. "That's great, babe," Sloane would say without looking up. "Really great." I wanted to take that phone and throw it across the room. Wanted to tell her that when someone cooks for you, the least you can do is pretend to pay attention. But I smiled instead, poured more sweet tea, asked polite questions about her job, her family, her apartment in Nashville. "We're thinking about getting a place together," Holden announced, reaching for Sloane's hand across the table. "Maybe something in Belle Mead, close to Sloane's work." Belle Mead, the rich part of town, where houses started at $500,000 and went up from there. "That's wonderful," I said, though my chest felt tight. "But that's quite a drive for you, isn't it? To your office?" "I don't mind," Holden said, squeezing Sloane's hand. "It's worth it." Everything was worth it when it came to Sloane. That became the theme of the next 6 months. They got engaged on a Tuesday in November. Holden proposed at Moretti's Italian, the same restaurant where Vernon had proposed to me 45 years earlier. Red checkered tablecloths, candles and wine bottles, chicken parmesan and too much Chianti. Holden called me at 10 that night, breathless. Mama, she said yes. Can you believe it? She said yes." "Of course she did, sweetheart," I said, staring at Vernon's photo on my nightstand. "Congratulations." I meant it. I did. My son was happy. He'd found someone he wanted to spend his life with. That should have been enough, but something in my chest felt heavy, like I was losing him. Like Sloane wasn't gaining a husband, she was taking my son. "I want you to be part of everything," Holden continued, words tumbling out fast and excited. "The planning, the preparations, all of it. You and Sloane are the 2 most important women in my life. I want you to be friends." Friends, right. The wedding planning started pleasant enough. Sloane called and invited me to lunch at some trendy cafe downtown, all exposed brick and Edison bulbs and $15 salads. Her mother came too, Darlene, a brittle woman with too much Botox and a voice like a chainsaw cutting through wood. They brought binders, thick 3-ring binders stuffed with magazine clippings, fabric swatches, Pinterest boards printed on glossy paper. Sloane flipped through them like she was presenting a business proposal, which maybe she was. "We're thinking destination wedding," she announced, tapping a photo of white sand and turquoise water. "Jamaica, probably. Or maybe the Bahamas, somewhere tropical." "That sounds beautiful," I said, stirring sugar into my iced tea. The spoon clinked against the glass, a small, lonely sound. Holden always loved the ocean. We took him to Gulf Shores when he was 8 and he didn't want to leave the water. Vernon practically had to drag him to the car. Sloane's smile tightened. The guest list will be small, intimate, just immediate family and close friends. Maybe 40 people total. Small is nice, I agreed. And expensive, Darlene added, her lips pursed like she'd bitten into something sour. But nothing's too good for our baby girl's special day. I'd love to help with costs, I said, setting down my tea. Vernon left me comfortable, not wealthy, but stable. I have savings. I could cover the flowers, maybe, or the rehearsal dinner. That's so sweet, Sloane interrupted, reaching across the table to pat my hand. Her engagement ring, a massive princess-cut diamond that caught the light like a disco ball, nearly blinded me. But we've got it covered. Holden's doing really well at work, and Daddy's helping out. Daddy, not my father, not my parents. Daddy. Like she was 12 instead of 31. Are you sure? I pressed. I really would love to contribute something. It's tradition for the groom's family, but we're sure, Darlene said, her voice sharp as a blade. Everything's under control. The door closed. Not slammed, just clicked shut. Quiet, polite, final. I wasn't needed. I wasn't wanted. I was just Holden's mother. An obligation to be managed, not a person to be included. The wedding invitations arrived 3 months before the big day. Thick cardstock, gold foil lettering, my name printed in elegant script on the envelope. I opened it standing in my kitchen, the afternoon sun streaming through the window where I used to keep Holden's dandelions. Sloane Marchand and Holden Ashford request the honor of your presence. No mention of parents. No, Mr. and Mrs. Vernon Ashford request the honor. No acknowledgement that Holden had a family, had a mother, had a father who should have been there to walk him down the aisle, give him away, tell him he was proud. Just their names. Like they'd sprung fully formed into the world, no history, no family, no one who'd raised them and loved them and sacrificed for them. I called Holden that night. The invitations are beautiful, I said, because they were. But sweetheart, I noticed they don't mention parents. Your sister and brother both had... It's modern, Mama, Holden said. His voice had that edge to it, the one that meant Sloane was listening. Nobody does the parents' names thing anymore. Your sister did, 2 years ago. Your brother did, 6 years before that. Things are different now. Different. That became Sloane's favorite word. Different tastes. Different style. Different vision for their future. Different from everything that had come before, everything that had mattered, everything that was me. I wasn't invited to the dress shopping. Found out from Marceline, who'd heard from a friend who'd seen the Instagram posts. Photos of Sloane in white lace, surrounded by her bridesmaids, 3 women from college I'd never met. Champagne glasses, laughter. Darlene's arms wrapped around her daughter. Not a single thought about inviting the groom's mother. I'm sorry, Mama, Marceline said over the phone. I thought you knew. I thought they'd invited you. It's fine, I lied. I'm sure they just wanted to keep it small. But it wasn't fine. And it wasn't small. It was deliberate. It was a message written in invisible ink that only I could read. You don't matter. You're not part of this. You're Holden's past, and I'm his future, and there's no room for both of us. The wedding was in Jamaica. White sand, blue water, palm trees swaying in the breeze. 85 degrees and humid enough to make my hair frizz despite the expensive product Marceline had bought me. I sat in the 3rd row. Not the front row, where mothers traditionally sit. Not the 2nd row, where maybe I could have been tucked away but still visible. The 3rd row, behind Sloane's extended family, behind her college friends, behind people I'd never met and never would. Sloane's parents need the front seats, Holden had explained when I'd asked. Gentle, apologetic, firm. Both of them, and Dad's gone, so really, does it matter where you sit? Does it matter? Like my presence was optional. Like I was a guest instead of the woman who'd birthed him, raised him, loved him for 33 years. It mattered. God, it mattered. I watched my son get married from the 3rd row. Watched him cry when Sloane walked down the aisle in a dress I'd never seen. carrying flowers I hadn't helped choose, accompanied by music I hadn't been consulted about. Watched Sloane barely glance in my direction during the entire ceremony. She had eyes only for Holden, which should have been romantic, but felt more like possession, like she was staking her claim, mine now, not yours. The reception was worse. Formal tables with assigned seating. I was at table 7, not the family table, not near Holden and Sloane. Table 7 with Holden's coworkers and their spouses, people who made polite small talk and checked their phones between courses. Marceline tried to swap seats with someone to sit next to me, but Sloane noticed and sent one of her bridesmaids to fix it. The seating chart was very carefully planned, the bridesmaid said. All fake sweetness and real steel. We can't just change things around. The speeches started after dinner. Sloane's father talked about his little girl, how proud he was, how perfect she'd always been. Sloane's maid of honor told stories about college parties and spring break trips and inside jokes that meant nothing to anyone outside their circle. Then Sloane stood up, grabbed the microphone, smiled that perfect smile that never reached her eyes. I just want to thank everyone for being here today, she said, her voice smooth as silk. This wouldn't be possible without so many people. My parents, for their endless love and support. My bridesmaids, for keeping me sane through all the planning. My college roommate, Jessica, for introducing me to the Nashville marketing scene where I found my career. And of course, Holden's family, for welcoming me. Holden's family, collective, anonymous. Not Elowen or my mother-in-law or any acknowledgement that I was a person with a name and a face and a heart that was currently breaking. Just Holden's family. Like we were a corporation instead of people who'd loved her son long before she showed up in her white BMW. I flew home the next day. Holden and Sloane were staying for a week-long honeymoon, but I couldn't stand another minute in paradise. Couldn't smile through another meal, another conversation, another moment of being politely erased. I sat in my quiet house, surrounded by photos of Holden as a boy. Gap-toothed grins from kindergarten, Little League uniform from when he was 9, high school graduation cap and gown. Vernon smiled at me from frames on every surface, frozen in time, forever 47 and healthy and here. She doesn't like me, I told his picture. It sat on the mantle. Our 20th anniversary photo, both of us laughing at something I couldn't remember anymore. Our boy married someone who doesn't like his mother. Vernon didn't answer. The house stayed quiet except for the tick of the grandfather clock in the hallway measuring out seconds that felt like hours. I thought the wedding was the worst of it. I thought once they settled into marriage, once Sloane felt secure, things would improve. I thought maybe she was just stressed from planning, just overwhelmed, just needing time to adjust. I was wrong. Things got worse. Holden's phone calls dropped from weekly to every other week to monthly. Always brief. Always distracted. Always with Sloane's voice in the background. Holden? We need to leave in 10 minutes. Or, babe, can you help me with this? Or, are you still on the phone? I miss you, I'd say, hating how small my voice sounded, how needy, how desperate. I know, Mama, I'm sorry. Work's been crazy. Sloane's been stressed about the house renovations. I'll call soon, promise. Promises from Holden used to mean something. They used to be solid as oak, reliable as sunrise, certain as gravity. Now they were paper, thin, easily torn, blown away by the slightest wind named Sloane. They bought a house 8 months after the wedding, a beautiful colonial in Belle Meade, white columns, circular driveway, backyard big enough for the children Holden talked about wanting. The children I'd never get to spoil because Sloane would find a way to keep them from me too. Holden sent photos but didn't invite me over. Not for 3 months, not until Marceline made a fuss, called him up and told him he was being ridiculous, that Mama deserved to see his house. When I finally visited, Sloane gave me a tour like I was a potential buyer. Professional smile, rehearsed descriptions. This is the living room. These are imported Italian tiles. The chandelier is from France. Don't touch the walls, she said as we walked through. I just had them painted. Fresh paint. Take your shoes off, please, she added at the door. The floors are new hardwood. I stood in their pristine living room in my stocking feet. looking at white furniture that had probably never been sat on, and glass coffee tables that showed every fingerprint. Not a single photo of Holden's family anywhere. No wedding photo that included me. No pictures of Vernon. No acknowledgement that Holden had existed before Sloane, just white and glass and cold perfection. "It's lovely," I said, meaning it. "You've done a beautiful job." "Thanks," Sloane said, checking her watch. A Rolex, rose gold. "We have dinner plans at 7, so if you need to head out soon." It was 5:45. I'd been there less than an hour. "Of course," I said, slipping my shoes back on. "I don't want to keep you." I left before 6, drove home crying so hard I had to pull over twice because I couldn't see the road. The holidays killed me slowly, one celebration at a time. Thanksgiving used to mean 20 people crammed into my dining room, the table extended with both leaves and borrowed card tables from the church. Turkey so big it barely fit in the oven. Mashed potatoes, green bean casserole, 3 types of pie. Vernon carving while I mashed, the house smelling like sage and butter and everything good in the world. That first Thanksgiving after Holden married Sloane, I set the table for 15. Washed the good china, made the green bean casserole Vernon had loved, brined the turkey for 2 days the way his mother had taught me. Holden called the Tuesday before. "Mama, I'm so sorry." His voice had that quality that meant bad news was coming. "We can't make it. Sloane's parents invited us to their place in Boca Raton. Her whole family's going to be there. It's important to her." The phone felt heavy in my hand. "It's important to me, too." "I know. We'll make it up to you. Christmas, I promise." Christmas was the same. Sloane's family again. Easter, 4th of July. Every holiday became a negotiation, and Sloane always won. Her family. Her traditions, her needs. I started seeing less of my son and more of his excuses, but then Mother's Day arrived. This year's Mother's Day, May 11th. The calendar date circled in red on the kitchen calendar I still kept, even though it was just me now. Holden called 3 weeks early. May had just started, flowers blooming, trees green and full. His voice was different, brighter, like the old Holden, the one who brought me dandelions. "Mama, clear your calendar for Mother's Day. We're doing a big brunch at our place. Just family, you, me, Sloane, Marceline, Quincy, everyone. Sloane's even planning the menu herself." My heart lifted. Stupid, maybe, but hope's a hard thing to kill when it comes to your children. "Really?" "Really. She wants to make this special for you, a fresh start. She feels bad about how things have been." I wanted to believe him. Wanted to believe that Sloane had grown a conscience, developed empathy, realized that she'd been cruel to the woman who'd raised the man she claimed to love. "That sounds wonderful," I said, already planning what I'd bring. "You don't have to bring anything," Holden said quickly. "Sloane's handling everything, just bring yourself." But I couldn't show up empty-handed. That's not how I was raised. That's not who I was. So I spent 2 days making cinnamon rolls from scratch. Vernon's recipe. The one that took 18 hours because of all the rising and rolling and waiting. The one Holden used to eat 4 of in one sitting, syrup dripping down his chin, his eyes rolling back in happiness. I bought a new dress. Nothing fancy. Just a soft blue cotton with white flowers that reminded me of spring, of hope, of new beginnings. That Mother's Day morning, I woke up at dawn, watched the sun rise through my bedroom window, drank my coffee standing at the kitchen sink where Vernon used to stand, looking out at the backyard where Holden used to play. I wrapped the cinnamon rolls carefully, still warm, tucked them into my canvas tote bag with the dish towels I'd embroidered myself, each one stitched with care during the long nights after Vernon died when I couldn't sleep. The drive to their house took 35 minutes. I knew the route by heart now. Past the grocery store where Holden used to beg for cookies, past the park where I'd pushed him on swings until my arms ached, past the elementary school where he'd learned to read, past all the places where my son used to love me without conditions. I parked on the street instead of the driveway. Didn't want to block anyone in. The house looked perfect in the morning sun. Shutters freshly painted, flower beds mulched, American flag hanging from the porch. Everything Sloane touched turned to magazine cover perfection. Everything except her heart. I walked around to the side gate like Holden had told me to. Come around back, he'd said, son. We'll be set up on the patio. Surprise everyone. The hydrangeas along the fence were wilting. I noticed that immediately. Blue petals curling brown, leaves drooping. They needed water. Sloane probably hired a landscaping company that came once a week and didn't notice when plants got thirsty between visits. I reached for the latch. The metal was hot from the sun. It burned my palm, but I didn't let go. That's when I heard Sloane's voice. Why is she even still alive? My hand froze. The world tilted. The cinnamon rolls bumped against my hip. I mean, she's what, 71? My grandmother died at 68. It's not like Elowen has anything left to contribute. Contribute? Like I was an employee, a business asset, something that needed to justify its existence. I should have left, backed away, driven home, pretended I'd never heard. But my body wouldn't move. My feet stayed rooted to the grass. My fingers gripped that hot metal latch until I felt my skin blister. When's she going to do us all a favor and just go? Another voice said. Female, young, one of Sloane's friends from college, probably. Holden spends so much time worrying about her. It's exhausting. Tell me about it, Sloane said. I heard ice clink in a glass. Mimosas, probably. Sunday morning champagne for brunch that wasn't for me. And she keeps offering money. Like we need her charity. It's pathetic. Pathetic. That's what I was to her. Pathetic. My vision blurred. The hydrangeas swam in my sight. What about the life insurance? Darlene's voice now, sharp, calculating. Holden must be the beneficiary. How much do you think? Mom. Sloane's voice held a warning. Not here. But the seed was planted. The truth was clear. They were waiting for me to die, counting on it, planning for it. And Holden. Where was Holden in all this? Was he inside? Did he hear them? Did he care? The cinnamon rolls were getting cold. 18 hours of work, 40 years of love. All of it cooling in my hands while my son's wife wished me dead. Something snapped inside me. Not my heart. That had been breaking for 3 years. Something harder. Something I didn't know I had until that moment. For 71 years, I'd been the peacemaker. The one who swallowed hurt to keep everyone comfortable. The one who smiled through pain, who made excuses for cruelty, who bent and folded and made myself smaller so other people could feel bigger. But standing there with cinnamon rolls made for a son who'd let his wife wish me dead, something ancient and fierce woke up inside me. I wasn't leaving. I was going in. I pushed open the gate. It swung wide, hinges creaking. The sound cut through Sloane's laughter. The backyard spread out before me exactly as I'd expected. Perfect, pristine, empty of love. 8 women clustered around the patio. Sloane, Darlene, the college friends, mimosa glasses everywhere. A charcuterie board on the table, expensive cheese, imported crackers, the kind of spread you post on Instagram for likes. No decorations, no Happy Mother's Day banner, no chairs set for family, just Sloane and her friends, having brunch, on Mother's Day, in the backyard where my son had promised to honor me. They all turned when the gate creaked. 8 faces, surprised, shocked, and on Sloane's face, something that might have been fear. Elowen, she said, setting down her glass, we didn't hear you arrive. I know, I said. My voice came out calm, steady, cold as winter. I've been standing at the gate for the past 5 minutes. Her face went white. Listening, I continued, walking forward, to you discuss why I'm still alive. Silence dropped like a stone into water. The kind of silence that drowns everything. Darlene opened her mouth, closed it. One of the college friends actually took a step backward. I can explain, Sloane started. Don't. I set the canvas tote on their glass patio table. Carefully, deliberately. I brought cinnamon rolls, made them from scratch. Vernon's recipe took 18 hours. But I don't suppose you'd appreciate the work that goes into something homemade, would you? Sloane's mouth opened and closed like a fish. Where's Holden? I asked. He went to pick up, Sloane started. Don't lie to me, My voice cut through hers. Is he here or not? He's inside, she admitted. Getting ready. Getting ready for what? For a Mother's Day brunch that was never going to happen? Get him, I said. Elowen, if we could just talk now. Something in my tone made her move. She disappeared into the house, her heels clicking on the patio stones. I stood there facing 7 women who'd been drinking champagne at 10 in the morning while discussing my death. They couldn't meet my eyes. Good. Holden came out first, still in his pajama pants and a t-shirt. Hair messy, eyes confused. Mama, what are you doing here? I thought brunch was at noon. There was never going to be a brunch, was there? I asked. He looked at Sloane, then at me, then back at Sloane. Tell her, I said to Sloane. Tell him what you told your friends. Tell him what you really think of his mother. I don't know what you're talking about, Sloane said, but her voice shook. You asked why I was still alive, I said. Each word came out sharp and clean. You said I had nothing left to contribute. You discussed my life insurance with your mother. You called me pathetic. Holden's face changed, went from confused to sick. You knew I was coming, I continued, looking at my son. You called me 3 weeks ago, told me Sloane was planning something special, a fresh start. Were you in on this? Were you part of setting me up? No, his voice cracked. No, Mama, I swear. I thought Sloane said... I said we'd do something nice, Sloane interrupted. Her recovery was fast, professional. We were going to. This was just pre-brunch drinks with friends. You weren't supposed to. Here you wish me dead? I finished. No, I suppose I wasn't. The silence that followed felt thick enough to drown in. Holden, I said, looking at my son, really looking at him, seeing the boy who'd brought me dandelions and the man who'd let his wife erase me from his life. I have something to tell you. Something I should have told you 2 years ago when you first brought this woman to my table. I reached into my purse, pulled out the envelope I'd prepared yesterday, the one I'd hoped I wouldn't need, the one I'd made just in case hope wasn't enough. This, one said, holding it up, is a copy of my will. The original is with my lawyer. I had it changed 6 months ago after last Thanksgiving when you chose Boca Raton over your family. Holden's face went paler. Mama, the house Vernon and I built together, I continued, my voice steady as bedrock, is going to your sister and brother, split equally between Marceline and Quincy. You get nothing. Sloane made a sound like she'd been punched. The savings account, 43 years of careful living, is being divided between your nieces and nephews. Your children, should you ever have any, will get nothing. You can't, Sloane started. I can, I said. It's my money, Vernon's and mine. We earned it together. We saved it together. And I'll be damned if I let you profit from his death. I turned to Holden. The life insurance policy, the one your wife was so interested in, has been changed. The beneficiary is now the children's hospital where you were born. Every penny goes to kids who need it. Not to you, not to her. Tears ran down Holden's face. Please. For 3 years, I said, my voice breaking now, finally breaking. I have watched you let this woman erase me from your life. Every holiday, every Sunday dinner. Every phone call cut short because she needed you more than I did. I told myself you were just in love, that you'd come around, that eventually you'd see what she was doing. I pulled out the second envelope. This is also for you. It's a letter. Everything I wanted to say but couldn't. Everything I swallowed and smiled through. Read it when I'm gone. Maybe then you'll understand what you lost. You're not going anywhere, Holden said, stepping toward me. Mama, please. I'm not dying, I said. But I'm done. I'm done being small, done being quiet, done accepting crumbs of affection from my own son while his wife plans my funeral. I set both envelopes on the table next to the cinnamon rolls. You made a choice, Holden, I said. Every time you chose her family over yours, every time you let her disrespect me. Every time you heard her cruelty and said nothing, you chose her. So now you get to live with that choice. I looked at Sloane, She'd sunk into a patio chair, her face the color of chalk. "And you," I said. "You wanted me gone. Congratulations. You won't have to see me anymore. No more awkward visits. No more pathetic offers to help. No more mother-in-law taking up space in your perfect life." I picked up my purse. My hands were shaking, but my voice was steel. "I'm 71 years old," I said. "My grandmother lived to 94. My mother hit 92. Women in my family are sturdy stock. We survive, we endure, and we remember." I turned to leave, made it 3 steps. "Mama, wait." Holden's voice. Broken, desperate. "Please." I stopped. Didn't turn around. "I'm sorry," he said. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know." "I didn't You didn't want to know," I said. That's different." I walked out the gate, got in my car, drove home. I didn't cry until I was in my own driveway, parked in front of the house Vernon and I had built. Then I cried until I couldn't breathe. Cried for the dandelion boy I'd lost. Cried for the son who'd let love make him cruel. Cried for myself, for believing that being kind was the same as being weak. 6 months have passed since that Mother's Day morning. 6 months since I walked out of Holden's backyard and into my new life. The first month was the hardest. Holden called 73 times. I counted, left voicemails that started angry, turned desperate, ended begging. Sloan called twice. Efficient, apologetic, offering explanations that meant nothing. I didn't answer. Marceline came by the second week, bringing groceries and sitting with me while I cried. "I always hated her," she said, holding my hand. "I'm glad you finally said what we were all thinking." Quincy showed up the third week with his boys. "Grandma," my oldest grandson said, hugging me so tight I couldn't breathe. "Dad says you're the strongest woman he knows." He's right. The letters kept coming. Holden's handwriting on envelope after envelope. I put them in a box in the closet. Maybe someday I'd read them. Maybe not. The real change came month 3. I joined a book club at the library, started volunteering at the food bank on Tuesdays, took a watercolor class at the community center, said yes to dinner with the widow from my church who'd been asking for years. Her name is Delphine. She lost her husband 7 years ago. We talk about Vernon and her Raymond like they're still here, still part of our lives, because they are. They always will be. "You're glowing," Marceline said last week, stopping by for our usual Sunday dinner. What changed? What changed was me. I stopped making myself small, stopped accepting the bare minimum from people who should have been giving me everything, stopped confusing love with doormat. Last month, Holden showed up at my door, no warning, just appeared on my porch at 6 in the morning. "Mama," he said when I opened the door. "Please." 5 minutes. I almost closed the door. Almost. But he looked so much like Vernon standing there. Same jaw, same eyes, same slump to his shoulders when he was ashamed. 5 minutes, I said. We sat in the living room, the one with all of Vernon's photos. All of Holden's childhood memories staring down at us. "I left her," he said. The words hung in the air. 2 weeks ago," he continued, "I filed for divorce. It'll be final in 6 months. "Why?" I asked. Not because I cared about Sloan, because I needed to know if he'd actually learned anything. Because I heard what she said to her friends at our anniversary party, he said, about how she married me for security, how she never actually loved me, how I was, his voice broke, how I was safe, boring, but financially stable. My heart hurt for him. Despite everything, it hurt. And I realized, he continued, that you tried to warn me. Not with words, you never said anything against her, but with how you loved me anyway. Even when I chose her over you. Even when I let her hurt you. You still loved me. I'm your mother, I said. That doesn't change. But it should have limits, he said. And you set them. You taught me that love without respect isn't love. It's just fear with pretty wrapping. He pulled something from his pocket, a small velvet box. Grandma's ring, he said. The one Dad gave you for your 40th anniversary. I was going to give it to Sloane for our 5th, but I'd like to give it to you instead, to keep or to give to someone who deserves it, someone who loves like you do. I took the box, opened it. The sapphire caught the morning light, throwing blue shadows on the wall. I don't forgive her, I said, and I don't forgive what you let happen. I know. But, I continued, I'm willing to try again, slowly, carefully, with boundaries that you respect. He nodded, wiped his eyes. We had coffee, talked, really talked. About Vernon, about the dandelions, about the cinnamon rolls he'd missed on Mother's Day. I'll make them again, I said, for Thanksgiving, if you promise to show up. Just you, no one who thinks I'm pathetic. Just me, he agreed, I promise. This time, I believe him. The hydrangeas along Sloane's fence are probably dead by now. She never did notice when living things needed care. But the ones in my yard, the ones Vernon planted 30 years ago, are blooming blue and purple and white. I water them every morning, their petals soft and strong under my fingers. Sometimes when I'm out there with the hose, watching the sun rise over the garden Vernon built for me, I think about that Mother's Day morning, about standing at the gate with cinnamon rolls growing cold in my hands, about the choice I made to stop being quiet. Best decision I ever made, Because here's what I learned at 71 years old. Your worth isn't measured by how others treat you. It's measured by how you treat yourself when they don't. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away from people who make you feel small, even when those people are family. If you've ever felt invisible in your own family, like your love doesn't matter, like you're a burden instead of a blessing, you're not alone. Your worth was never theirs to determine. It was always yours to claim. To anyone fighting their own battle right now with family who takes you for granted, your voice matters. Your boundaries matter. You matter. Don't wait until you're 71 to figure out what I finally learned. Respect isn't negotiable, even with the people you love most. What lesson hit you hardest from this story? And if you were in my shoes that Mother's Day morning, what would you have done? Would you have walked away, or would you have pushed through that gate? Keep watching. Click the next video on your screen right now and watch another powerful story from our channel. Don't let this be the end of what you learned today. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a story, and drop your answers in the comments below. I want to hear from you. I want to know your story. I'll see you in the next one.